let's come back to you on this one. Just give us 1 minute. Okay, we'll get back on this. So our request will take time to process what has been given and the discussion. So at this point in time, I would request that we move to the next policy, which is RPKI ROAs for unallocated and unassigned AFPUB address space. So
I am trying to share the slides, but it's not working. Okay, now. I guess you can now see the slides. Can you confirm?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
I can see Jody.
So, RPKI ROAs for unallocated and unassigned AFPUB address space. There was a lot of discussion during the night and early this morning on this proposal. It's a much simpler proposal than all the others that we have seen this week. However, it's like creating more conflicts or more questions. And I think the reason for that is because the people has no real knowledge about how RPKI works and the operational implications. RPKI is something that you opt in, okay? So that means that if you don't want to use the RPKI repositories provided by the registries, you are not forced to do that. So there is no way anyone can justify that with this, AFPUB has more control on the routing system. That's not true. The purpose of creating these RPKIs from origin AS0 is to make sure that bad people is not announcing an allocated space and the people automatically cannot manage it. So it's providing a way for you to secure your network if you wish. You are not forced to do that, not at all. So how we do that? Let me go to the proposed text. We just say that AFPUB will create ROAs which origin AS0 for all the unallocated and unassigned address space that they are administrating. This don't change what is being done today already with RPKI, okay? This is not for the space that already belongs to any member. In addition to that, any existing member can still create their own AS0 for the resources they have. So if I have resources allocated by AFPUB and I don't want to use part of them at the moment, I can still create an AS0 for those resources. That's normal. Some people is doing, like, for example, iAccess, okay? Because they don't want those resources to be announced. So basically, what we changed from version 1 to version 2, and this is based on the implementation report of APNIC. So again, this proposal is even better than the previous one that has been already implemented in APNIC and is being implemented in LACNIC, is telling AFPUB that if they want to use a specific different trust anchor locator at TAL, this becomes an easier opt-in service and provides separate measurements, etc., etc. That may be at least in the implementation phase. Later on, maybe in the future, they want to decide that it's a single TAL and they can consult the community about that, okay? So I have one slide about what happened between version 1 and version 2. I will skip that. If somebody wants to read it, the slides, I guess, are published. What I want to stress is that we are unable to update the proposal if the chairs don't declare consensus and state what is wrong. Okay, so this is important, and not just for this proposal, but also for the others. So please make sure that report the reasons for not declaring consensus if that's the case again. I have here the references about the consensus and the implementation reports of APNIC and LACNIC. There are even videos in YouTube. I shared this information already in the list a few days ago. I hope somebody has looked on that if they have doubts. So they should have been resolved already. I have also one slide mentioning from where this comes from, and it's an RFC 6483. I am not going to read it. And with that, I am going to change to Maddy slides. I hope you can see them already, Maddy. Floor is yours. Maddy? Maddy, are you online?
Hello. Maddy will join us in a bit. She's reconnecting.
Okay.
Let's give her 2 minutes.
Yeah. I will keep the slide online if somebody want to start reading. So maybe Maddy want to skip this slide.
Okay.
Just rather than wait for Maddy, why not give the floor to some of, because we don't have the time.
Okay, so as we wait for Maddy, let's have
Maddy's
okay,
there.
Good.
All right, thank you. I think to catch up on time, there's something that I'd like to say is that at the moment, AFRINIC have a prefix sanity checker that we use to identify any unallocated and an assigned space that is in our pool to see if they are visible in the global routing table. This is done because any unallocated or an assigned space is AFRINIC's responsibility and should not be used by any other party on the internet until it is delegated by AFRINIC to its members who comply with the AFRINIC policies. So we do this to ensure that the processes are clean at the time of issuance. One thing that was raised based on the internal impact assessment, that this policy, if ratified, will in fact impact or improve the process that we have regarding checking the unallocated space, because it will enable AFRINIC to be proactive, because such announcements of unallocated or an assigned space will be prevented from propagating to the global routing table, and especially if they covered with an AS0 ROAs. Jody, can you move to the next slide, please?
Done.
The detailed impact analysis is updated. So one clarification request, I think you've already responded to that. Can we move to the next one?
Yeah, done.
So the impact will be on the system. So on the registry functions, we will ensure that the AS0 ROAs are created for any new resources that come into the inventory at any point in time, whether it's a return or it's we getting in from IANA. And also at the time of issuance, the revocation of the ROAs, AS0 ROAs will be done. Some tests were done, so I'm told it takes less than 5 minutes to ensure that it takes out the AS0 ROAs are taken out before the resources are issued. Next slide.
Done.
An implementation timeline, the policy can be implemented within 6 months of from last call as prescribed in the CPM. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhvi. Yes.
Okay, so quickly responding to those, impact on members. Basically, we believe that this proposal is not changing anything because the members can already, I explained it already, use AS0, and this policy don't change that. In fact, IXPs are already doing that, so that's clear. Just a clarification. And my last slide. What will be the validity period? We are silent again on that in this proposal because we believe that it should be decided by AFRINIC, and it's not really too much relevant because even if the validity of the certificates is 10 years, they can be revoked at any point before that time. And as Madhvi explained it, the implementation, which is actually running in APNIC, demonstrates that you can do that every 5 minutes, not a problem. So you can allocate a space that is in the AS0 ROA to a customer, to a member, and 5 minutes later, you can update the certificate, revoke it, and make a new one. So that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. Let's open the floor. Anwar. Let's have Anwar on the mic. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I'm Melina, manager of a network of research, and I support this proposal, provided if I can be confirmed that we can trust fully the process to preserve the unissued resources by AFRINIC, because this was a problem we've had in the past with resources which were misused by members of the AFRINIC staff. I really hope that the implementation of this proposal can bring a regain in safety for the resources of AFRINIC, and we can be sure that they are
Lost you. We have lost you. I think we may have to go in for the next speaker. Ala, please.
The queue for abuse, so you allow me to cover both policy, but I will, as usual, I'll be very precise. So on the abuse, I think for those of us who run network, we really know what abuse is, and everybody knows what abuse is. And for those who want to learn about abuse, they should read RFC 2142. On the current implementation we have, which use the IRT object. Okay, I work for Wakren. I'm the CTO, and Wakren is one of the members who has this IRT object. So, but the current implementation requires that staff help the members run a campaign to help the members to implement. But I've never seen a campaign, a webinar, etc., to really convince the members to do so. Okay, then And I have questions on for staff. Madvi and Madvi, I understood that we are going to create an abuse C as a person object, then we use it as an attribute. But something is not clear for me that that attribute is not going to be on the item and the but is it going to be on the attribute to the organizations? So if you could clarify that would help. But I think the abuse is something we need to put mandatory. And as staff said yesterday, people are filtering, and I want this community to understand that if as a community we don't do things right, okay, when some of us misbehave, it will affect the whole region. When people are tired of dealing with some subject, they can go and blacklist all the /8 we have. Then on the RPKI, briefly, on the RPKI, I think I also think the RPKI AS0 we should also go for it, and I think it's easy to be implemented, especially that with the TAL, with the experimental TAL. So this is something I think we should consider, and I thank the co-authors for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Allah. Can we have Ben? Ben, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Ben.
Okay, so I've said most of, so Ben from Work Online, I've said most of what I think on this proposal on the mailing list this morning, but there are a couple of points that I'd just like to point out. The fundamental claim, Geordie, that you made that this will have no impact on members is not true. The impact that this could potentially have on resource holders in this region is not just determined by their own decision to opt in or out of trust in whatever TAL these ROAs get published under. It's also a question of their neighbours' routing policies and their neighbours' routing policies over which they have no control. And so this, I think, in particular in the case of reclaimed space, has the potential for significant downsides. It's also, and I've spoken to a lot of other operators in multiple regions about this and similar proposals in other regions, and it's not clear that routing traffic towards bogons presents a significant operational challenge to anyone. I'm of the opinion that it's undesirable, and we do currently filter bogons on our network, but a minority of other people do, and those people that don't report, or at least in the conversations I've had, don't report substantial challenges with abuse related to bogon space. So I think that we need to be very careful about not introducing additional downside in the way of new risk in this policy. I've set out a few things on the mailing list that I think would address that risk. So maybe you could respond to that either now or on the mailing list separately. I've got a couple of comments on the feedback that Madvi provided. The first is in terms of monitoring unauthorized announcements of unallocated space. I think actually the presence of these ROAs would make that monitoring substantially harder. And that's because if someone is announcing unallocated space and there is a AS0 ROA covering that space, that announcement will not show up in a fairly large chunk of the internet in the default free zone. So you would have to be monitoring from a specific vantage point that didn't use origin validation in order to see those unauthorized announcements and do something about it. The second thing is that the 5-minute time that was alluded to, I'm almost done. The 5-minute time that was alluded to is certainly true when it comes to publishing and revoking new objects, but there are multiple steps in the chain before a change in the repositories winds up in someone's routing policy. Relying parties need to refresh their cache periodically. The routers themselves need to receive updated information via the RTR protocol. And so I think that 5 minutes is probably false. I think you're probably talking about single-digit hours. There's work going on in the IETF to establish exactly what those timers are and what they should be. But I think making the claim that these can be revoked and have no further impact in 5 minutes is probably not true, and it's never going to be true.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. I think we can take in one more and then have you, Jody, respond. Let's have Moza Muyabwa.
Ready? I didn't catch it.
Yeah, we have one more we have more participant contribute, and then Jody, you can respond. So I'm waiting for Moza. Are you there, Moza? If Moza is not able to connect, we can give a chance to the next. That is Ezekpo Mwanko. Ezekpo has dropped. Jody, can you please respond? Jody, the mic is yours, please.
Yeah. Okay. The inputs from Mark, I understand. Obviously, he's in support of the proposal. He just wants to make sure that the implementation is done carefully, and this is, of course, part of the intent of the proposal, and the analysis impact already stated that. The advantage we have, I already mentioned it before, is that APNIC already did, LACNIC is doing right now, so we have previous experience to avoid mistakes. Okay. When Mark is telling that it's not right, that there is not impact in the members, I wanted to clarify that. I mean, there is no negative impact, okay? Especially because it's an opt-in service. And yes, there is one additional advantage that I didn't mention in my presentation, and I think is important, is that if AFPUB needs to reclaim a space because somebody is not following policies or not paying, of course, that space at some point will appear in the AS0. That's not bad for the members. That's actually a good protection for the members against those that don't behave correctly. So this is clearly an advantage, not a disadvantage. Again, that will only work if the rest of the members or the rest of the community is using an opt-in service. So there is not a mandatory enforcing of that anyway. Regarding the 5 minutes, and I think this is my last point, yes, 5 minutes is the time for the registry. Of course, there are catches in the way, but we need to realize that most of the time, I will say 99.99% of the time, when you get resources from a registry, you need a few days. Mark was talking about hours. You need a few days to announce them. It's not normal that you get the resources and you announce them in 2 hours or 10 hours. So that's not an impact. And if that's an impact, the benefit is much higher than it really doesn't matter. You are getting resources, wait one day to announce them. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. We're going to have, I'm just going to give one person. Can we hear you, Kalonda Lucien? Kalonda. Okay. We are not able to hear from Kalonda. We have very many other participants and contributions in the chat group. Thank you for providing your inputs there. We're going to take all these into consideration and review. We request that we get back to you on the decision of the co-chairs at the end of the day. So at this point in time, allow me to invite the next presenter for the policy proposal by the policy proposal of unique number resources transfer policy. So the authors are okay.
Share the slides.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
You should be able ready to